Welcome back to the podcast, everybody. I'm Brian Sherwood. This is the Best Adventure Podcast, and my guest this week is a man who moved himself, his girlfriend, and his dog in a sedan across the country to get closer to nature and reconnect with the natural world. Please welcome Mr. Rich Ryan. Rich, welcome.
Howdy.
So, we're going to talk about your story today. Why don't you give people a little bit of a background on who you are and what brings you to talk to me today?
The background of me, that's a loaded question, but let's just dive right in. Philly boy originally, and let's just say that Philly wasn't for me after a few years of just grinding in the East Coast and experiencing, I call it the vortex, that is the DC, New York, Philadelphia area.
Okay.
It's just too much, man. It was too much, and I knew I had to make a change. Always daydreamed and thought about coming out west, the great frontier. But, it was always money was an excuse, or, I should work a few more years and save up, or, wait for this or that. And then my dad got sick. I was about 26, and right when I was thinking about making a big move, and that was like, he passed away quick, and that was like the catalyst that said, you know what, enough is enough.
Right.
Like, I'm going after this. Life's clearly too short. We got the same genes. My clock is ticking.
Right.
So it was like, wake up, smell the coffee, and get your ass out there. And luckily, I had a girl at the time that was on board with me, so we were just like, hell, let's just do this. It's now or never. So that was that, and came out here, and but podcasts are just, I think they're fascinating, man. I think the culture and society are pretty much teach us that we can only have our attention span be for fucking 5-minute Vine videos or less, and it's like, you know what, we're more than that. People want that authentic conversation. They want some genuine input on things. And you see it now. I mean, Rogan's show is massive.
Oh, yeah.
Like, all that stuff. It's just picking up. It's this huge wave. And I figured, what the hell? I love to talk and share my story. Because when I hear other people's stories, it always helps me navigate. So I just figure you got to, pay it forward.
Right. Kind of like, you hear somebody else's story, their struggles, and you can, kind of relate to theirs and put it into perspective for your own story. And it helps to have that exterior perspective of somebody else, because it can help you kind of realign your own thoughts and actions and kind of shape your life that way. So, I mean, it's a powerful medium,
Completely.
and I mean, that's what we're doing here is, hopefully able to inspire somebody to, live their best adventure and live their best life, whatever they choose that to be.
Right.
You chose it to be, escaping the hustle of the cities, and you wanted to make a life change, and you did it, man. And that's awesome. So when you did that, was there like, I guess some level of hesitation was kind of there, right?
Of course, yeah. There's the again, the pressure you feel from society or the culture to be a certain way, and because I had done that my whole life. I went to college, to for my parents' sake, really.
Right.
I knew I wanted to party and do all that stuff, but I knew it wasn't really for me. But I just went through with it, and it seems like when you look back, a lot of the decisions you make in life are based off of what you think you ought to do, or some voice in your head that might be your parents' voice or society's voice. But at some point, you just got to be like, you got to find your own voice, for lack of a better phrase.
Absolutely.
And,
I agree completely.
Yeah. So that takes some time, and it definitely comes easier to others. I got friends who were still trapped in that, like, well, I can't do this because, grandpa's still alive, or if I were to do that, my mom would kill me. And that has its place. It's usually out of love. So I dig it. But at some point, man, you got to be like, enough is enough, you know?
Right,
So
right. You only get one chance,
that's
right?
it.
I mean, you got to just reach down deep, find out what it is that you love, and just do it.
That's it.
You
Simple
know?
as that. But again, simply put, but
Yeah, exactly. It's not
hard
so
to
easy to
execute.
do,
Right.
right? But the most important thing is to understand that it can be done. If you're willing to go through the struggle, and that's really important, is that it's not going to be easy
Mm-hmm.
to get after whatever it is that you want, because you're going to face those societal norms and the family things and
Sure.
all those things that are holding you back to stop you from doing what it is you want to do. You're going to keep facing those even once you've started.
Right.
You
Right.
know, you're always going to want to be pulled back, and you're gonna question yourself, and you're gonna
Mm-hmm.
run into self doubt, and that's when those are the most important days to keep going.
That's right. Yeah. Every day, it's a challenge, and it doesn't. A lot of times, it doesn't get easier. You know,
No,
you just find out whatever that mantra or whatever that is in you that keeps you pushing. You got to
right.
make sure that's in the front. The front of your mind.
That's right. That's right. So after was you said you left with your lady, right?
Left with the lady and
Okay.
our pooch, our boxer pit bull mix.
Okay. And
Yeah.
she was on board.
She was on board, but for her, she was much closer with her family.
Okay.
Um, I had only just my mom and sister pretty much left, so it was a little easier for me to break away. But for her, yeah, she had two her mom's side, her dad's side, the stepdad's side, and just a big loving family. So
Yeah.
who depended on her a lot. 'Cause she was the oldest,
Okay.
So it took a little bit more coaxing, I would say, to get her on board, but I didn't. I never pressured her. She voluntarily
Yeah.
decided that this
Yeah.
is, what, because she felt it too. She knew that if I stay here, I'll just become the crutch of the family, which
Right.
again for a lot of people take pride and it's a great responsibility. But for her, I think she wanted something more for herself. She
Okay.
wanted to explore, and we're both nature freaks,
There you
so we
go.
just the Poconos and the Jersey Shore weren't cutting it
Okay.
anymore for us.
Right. Right. Well,
We
you
had to get out of
chose
there.
a good place, man. I
Oh,
mean,
dude,
how
beautiful.
long have you been in Colorado?
I guess officially here for mm, almost a year and a half, but just bounced around a lot and drove all through the country. Spent most of our dough, which was the plan. We kind of we sold all our stuff. We had a 2 bedroom, got rid of everything. Whatever didn't fit in our 4-door Legacy Subaru wasn't coming. So
Right.
we made it work, and it was a nice like catharsis because you have all the stuff you think you need, and all this. Like, 'cause I'm a sentimental guy to some extent. Like there's things I'll keep that there's no reason I need to keep them, but
Right.
there's something about it that you hang on to that shirt you haven't worn in 9 years, and you're just
Right.
like,
Right.
it's my comfort thing. But so it was a good process to kind of purge all that out, and then we kind of felt like we were starting fresh, and we were in a lot of ways. So
Yeah.
it was good.
That is good. That is good. So now it's you're far more comfortable with it, obviously, and kind of going through the process. Do you guys ever regret it?
I would never say regret because if we have that like twinge of like, maybe we should have just stayed where we were and kept, building the career and kind of keep staying in line. But then we just think about like the reality of what that would have looked like, and it's just not as exciting
Right.
as like the opportunities out here. I mean, driving up here from Denver, I remember it's like on the way to Yellowstone and Tetons, and again back home, it's like you drive 6 hours west and you're in Pittsburgh, and I love Pittsburgh, but there's nothing but farm country out there, and you can't really stimulate the nature senses.
Okay.
But out here, it's like a whole different world. It's
Right.
amazing.
Right. It
So
just swallows you up.
swallows you up whole, and we can't now. It's like damn, because we told our folks like we'll be back. We're gonna go out, have some fun. We start a family, we'll come back and settle. But now it's like I don't know, man. Like this is
Yeah.
too much fun out here. I don't want
Right.
to fucking go back.
Right.
So it's tricky.
And had you not, left, you would have been sitting there and, been in that situation that we started talking about where, you wonder, is
Hmm.
there something else out there for me? And that can eat somebody alive, man. It really can. And so, you took that leap of faith and, you guys you hopped in the car, took the dog, and you drove across the country and you found something spectacular,
That's it.
something that spoke to you, spoke to your mind, spoke to your soul.
Hmm.
And that's a beautiful thing. So, what was it always the plan to end up in Colorado? Was it always a plan to kind of find more nature? Or
Hmm.
did you even have a plan, or was it just let's go and see what the world gives us?
Yeah, I would say the latter. It was definitely we had an idea, like the broad strokes, so we knew we knew we had to leave that East Coast, Middle Atlantic, hullabaloo. We had to get
Right,
somewhere a little more peaceful, more natural. We thought Denver was a good base, a good start, because it's like the gateway to the West, and it's a good launch point for you're going to fly to LA, you're going to fly to
right.
Washington or whatever. It was kind of a nice geographical point. Personally, I love California. I love the ocean.
Okay.
That's probably the one thing that I miss the most being out here. And the mountains definitely, you know, breathe plenty of life into me. But when I see that ocean, it's just a whole different animal.
Right,
Um, but so yeah, it was California was kind of the goal. But then again, the cost of living and the politics in California
right.
and the fires now, and it's just like kind of put a bad taste in my mouth. So yeah, just to get out from under, man, that was the whole thing. And now it's no plan, just sort of taking it as it comes. We know we love where we are now. Um, we're hoping to plan like a nice big road trip to Alaska coming up.
Nice.
I'm super pumped about that. Really get in the cut and maybe see some grizzlies and
There you go.
get down and dirty.
Where about in Alaska?
Uh, I had I used to work at a special needs high school, which was a great experience. One of my best friends there swore by Alaska. He used to go up like once a year for hunting and fishing, and he always mentioned Homer,
Okay.
which I think is it's down one of the peninsulas, I believe, towards like the tip of a peninsula. I think it's pretty remote even for Alaska, and I could be wrong about this, but he spoke so highly of it, and it's just been one of those things in my ear. It's just like one of these days, like
Yeah.
Montana's beautiful. There's plenty of stuff in the Rockies, but I just want to go push out a little further and see what's
Right.
up there.
I've always wanted to do that too.
Mm-hmm.
I think Alaska calls to everybody who has a love of nature.
Has to,
At some point, yeah, it has to,
has to,
right?
man.
There's just something magical about that place. I've never been, but I will go there one day.
Yeah,
I will.
I think the lack of people
Yes.
is such a
Yes.
thing, and again, it's funny because like if we camp super remote, you almost miss people being around, like hearing the
Yeah.
other monkeys in the distance. You kind
Right.
of feel like the sense of security,
Right.
but there's nothing like just being somewhere and there's nobody around. too.
Exactly.
It's beautiful.
Yeah. It's humbling too,
Oh yeah,
especially out in these mountains here in Colorado. I mean, you look out over those vistas and it seems like there's always just one more hill
oh yeah,
just is right there,
yep.
and if I get there you get to the top and then there's just one more and it's right there, it's just a little bit higher.
Dude, it never ends.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah, and it's amazing to get out there and say it all the time, there's a healing power in getting yourself out there and reconnecting with earth and all of that. Like, you just don't get it in a city.
Mm.
I mean, I'm not a city guy. I know plenty of people who are, and they swear by it, but I'm not that guy. I find that in cities, people just are so stressed.
Mm.
There's so much movement and there's so much artificial light and surfaces, and you just find over time that there's a disconnect between people and themselves and each other and of nature. And I think it's important for people to get out and just sit on a rock and listen to the wind.
Yeah, for real. That's
You know?
simple too. That's like something as easy as that.
Yeah,
Can have a profound. I mean, it has a profound effect on me. I'm sure it
yeah,
would be the same for others. But yeah, it's funny you mentioned the city. I don't know if it was a show I was watching or something, but they were talking about when you're in a city, especially like a bigger city, your nervous system is always in that fight or flight.
right,
You have to be almost like a survival, that reptilian brain instinct where you're surrounded by people and variables and moving objects, and it's just such chaos that you're kind of in this state of panic. And I noticed like my shoulders would be tight. I would notice my breath would be shallow. And as soon as we'd get in the car and just drive just out of the city limits, and you start to see, the land open up, or you smell the forest, or your feet are in the sand. I swear, it's like, man, I haven't taken a breath in 3 months.
Right.
Like, it's just been in the city, and it's all shallow, and you're just like a little reptile.
Yeah, yeah. That's
So
that's what keeps me where I'm at, man.
Yeah, dude, no going
yeah.
back.
So, have you dabbled in rock climbing, kayaking, any of that kind of stereotypical Colorado lifestyle?
Rock climbing, I like the bouldering aspect.
Okay.
I guess I'd like to think that I'm brave enough and cool enough to just like go and just like send up this crazy peak, and maybe at some point. But I like the physical workout of bouldering and staying low,
Right.
and just feeling the rock. Again, like the humbling part, just being connected,
Yeah.
feeling that you're working out. Because for me, I feel like I have to exercise to keep my mental health in check.
Right.
If I don't exercising those demons, then shit can turn on me fast. So.
Yeah, yeah. You gotta wake up every single day and look those demons in the eye and kick their teeth down their throat, right?
That's it, man.
It's a daily fight.
It is daily. That's what they don't tell you. It's not
Right.
just it's not a quarterly thing. It's a daily thing.
So, for people listening who are unfamiliar with the landscape, Denver is about an hour south of where we're at right now. Rich, have you ever been here in Fort Collins?
I've driven through
Okay.
on the way to like Idaho, or just as like just like shooting up 25 north. I come
Okay.
through here, but this is the first time I've been like in the town center.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, you had mentioned bouldering, and I wouldn't be helping you at all if I didn't mention this. Right around the corner, like if that warehouse wasn't outside my window right there, you could see it.
Okay.
Some of the best bouldering in the country,
No way.
right there. It's 5 minutes away.
Okay.
There's 3 or 4 little spots out there. You should check it out.
I will.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah, it's fantastic out there. There's good overhangs, and there's a couple of small low-hanging problems, and there's a couple of big problems out there.
So I hear you saying problems. That's some climber.
I grew up here.
Okay, that's
Yeah, I love climbing. I love bouldering. I've never done trad climbing outside of a gym. Just something about it just feels unnatural to me.
right.
I don't know why. I've sent some pretty big rocks in my time. 400 or 500 foot rocks, but never with a rope. And
wow.
yeah,
Free solo.
I
kind of
was
stuff.
I was a wild man in my teenage years. I don't do that anymore. But yeah, dude, I just don't like climbing with ropes for whatever reason. I dabbled in arboriculture for a little while and climbed trees professionally, and obviously you climb with ropes there and a saddle and all
Right.
that. And even then, I didn't like it enough. Something about being released from all of that helps you connect closer to the natural world. For me, I mean, I am not putting it out there that everybody should go send 500-foot rock faces without ropes.
Right.
It's bad for you, but it's good for you if you have that in you.
You're right. If it's in you, you gotta entertain that
Yeah.
for sure. Because
Yeah.
have you've seen Free Solo and all
Yes.
that?
Yes.
That kind of blew me away because I wasn't familiar too much
Right.
with that at all. But Alex Honnold is
He's an animal.
he's an animal, and they just did that other one I just saw that was even more interesting. I had no idea. This Free Solo climber who had, he's passed on, but the whole movie he was. I don't want to ruin it for people, but
No, you're right.
he
Spoiler alert.
spoiler alert, he's dead. But it's a great movie, and he kind of like Alex, but never was on Instagram. Never
Okay.
like had a camera. Just was doing his thing without a rope. But he was doing like ice climbs, like freestanding ice.
I
runs.
know who you're talking about, and I
It's
cannot
just-
remember his name because I think it's one of those names that I'm not ethnic enough to pronounce with the respect it deserves. But I do know who you're talking about.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Fascinating. I mean, yeah, just the mind space for that. I think I've just came up in the city, a little. I'm trying to unravel my cityness, but it's still there. It lingers.
Oh, it'll always be there.
Yeah.
So what What other adventures do you like to do? Is there anything that calls to you that you haven't done? Maybe.
Hmm. In terms of like physical space or
Sure.
just anything.
Anything. Any part of your life.
Oh, well, I was when I was 20. I was in Rome for a few months, and I was there studying, with my university or whatever. And there was a point where I was like, "This is so much fun, just being in Europe, being outside the language domain,
Right.
outside the cultural domain." Blew my mind like wide open.
It'll do that.
Yeah, I mean,
Europe especially.
yeah, right. Western Europe is just because it's familiar in a lot of ways, but some things are so left field. You're
Yeah.
just like, is this where am
And
I?
it's very ancient,
Yes.
as especially compared to anything we have here.
Oh my God, yeah.
You can't come close to it.
No, you got the Colosseum
Yeah.
and the Pantheon and all these places thousands of years, and then it's like here it's like 1875.
Yeah,
It's like, what the hell
right,
is going
right.
on?
It's like my great grandfather knew the guy who built this place.
Right, right. Not
Yeah.
15 generations. Yeah, that place was wild. I kind of wanted to just like skip out on my visa and just become like an American immigrant in
Right.
Italy and just like write a book or something.
That would be fun, wouldn't
I
it?
was 20 and I had a lot
Yeah.
of grandiose ideas.
Oh
So,
yeah, it was all romantic adventure.
oh my
Yeah.
God, yeah. Me versus the world
Yup.
and learning Italian and all that. But I think that also was like a catalyst because I came back and I was like, there's more to this place than just what I've been taught and what I've been
Right.
told and even what I think about the world. So I think going back to Europe because I haven't been back since. So
Okay.
that'd be sweet. I want to get to Northern Europe, like Copenhagen, Denmark, Sweden, the
That
Nordic
would be
countries.
nice. I've always wanted to go there.
Super clean air. Again, like
Yeah.
just the people are. I hear some of the friendliest, which I also think out here. I don't know if you recognize that because you're a native, but coming from like Philadelphia to here,
Right.
for the longest time, I thought people were like fucking with me, like waving to me and like saying hi and smiling. I
Really?
thought that was like it was unsettling because in the city, it's like, my God, if you hold eye contact for like more than a few seconds, people are like,
Aggressive.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's fighting around the world over there. So
Yeah. That's what I've always heard. See, I've never been to that part of the states. I'm from New Orleans,
oh, okay,
and
love New Orleans. Place
yeah,
is wild.
yeah. Talk about a city with some character.
Uh-huh.
It's a whole different world down there.
The voodoo.
Yep. Best food in the world, though, hands down.
Mm.
I've been all over the world, and New Orleans has the best food.
That Creole Cajun influence. Yeah.
Yes. Ah, it's so good. But I see. I have the opposite feeling of you. You say people are so much friendlier here. I feel like they're friendlier in the South. I've met a lot of people who disagree with me, and they're like, everybody in the South is an asshole. But I've always had better experiences with people in the South.
Huh.
For an example, like if I go to a bar here in Colorado, I can sit and drink alone all night long and never talk to anybody but the bartender.
Mm.
But I can't go to a bar in the South and finish a beer without somebody wondering why I'm sitting by myself and just coming
Really?
over and having a conversation.
Huh.
And like it's interesting the difference in that kind of stuff. And so you've been to New Orleans, right?
Been in New Orleans,
Yeah.
yes.
So I mean, have you ever been to one of those restaurants down there where they don't have like tables and booths, but they have like picnic tables, and they're all like crammed next to each other, and
Oh
you
yeah.
just sit with strangers and eat your dinner, like that kind of thing.
The full experience.
Yeah.
I do believe it's a little hazy because we were down there for a wedding, and I don't remember if I had any hour of clarity at all. But
That'll happen there.
during the bender, it was yeah, some really fun. I did feel that though, like a camaraderie down there.
Yeah.
And again, a lot less judgment, and it's this hour of the day you should be doing this. It's
Right.
kind of like, hey, we're all having a good time, man. What's up? Where you from?
Yeah.
So I don't know if it's alcohol induced, but
Partly, probably.
probably. But it has to be the people too, because there's I was in there's plenty of drunks in Boston that aren't friendly. So
Right, exactly. Yeah, I mean, and you're gonna get friendly and not friendly no matter where you go.
right, that's it.
But,
People
I
are
mean,
there's always gonna be
yeah,
assholes.
that whole concept of Southern hospitality, I find to be a real thing. I like the few times that I've been to the North, I never felt that. I always
right.
feel like there's an emptiness with people up in the North, and like I don't know what it is. I don't know
Yeah.
what it is. Maybe it's maybe it's because of where you come from. You know, like I come from the South, so when I go south, I feel at home.
It's like your kin.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And I mean, Colorado right here, kind of like right in the middle of it. And it's just like everybody comes from all different directions. And most of them are drawn here for the same reason that, you and I are, is this the nature.
Right.
And I think that's what yields the positivity around here is just the mountains.
Oh
They're,
man.
they're like a big brother always looking out for you, just right next to you. Like
Yeah.
where we're at in the Front Range, you see them all day long. And then when you're overwhelmed, you just take a short drive, and 20 minutes later, you're in the middle of nowhere.
Right.
And there's a piece to that.
No, it's so true. Everybody I talk to who's new, which seems to be almost everybody out here, is not
These
from
days,
here.
yeah.
Which I feel bad for the natives somewhat, but
Right.
yeah, we always talk about how if you're having a rough day, you're driving and you just look out at those mountains, and it's pretty
Yeah.
hard to stay inside your bullshit of the day when you
Right.
have those mountains in the backdrop. In the backdrop. So it's super, again, really healing, powerful stuff.
It really is. It's what keeps everybody around here. I mean, I don't even do well working inside. Like I don't like to sit at home all day long. Me and Scout, we like to go out and hike.
Oh, yeah.
We'll go out and hike. We'll go out and fish. I mean, she doesn't fish. She just rolls around in the muck and chases ducks. But I go fishing. I don't catch anything, but I look like I know what I'm doing.
Hey, that's like 90% of the battle, man.
Yeah, right. But yeah, I don't even like to work inside under artificial lights or in front of a computer. Set me in a box in front of a computer all day. No, thank you. No,
Right.
I can't do that.
I don't see how it's good for anybody. I mean,
I don't either. I feel bad for the people who do that their entire life. I mean, and I'm talking to you right now, you in front of your freaking computer at your cubicle.
yeah, buddy. What are you thinking?
Get up, walk around, walk over to your boss, tell him to go fuck himself and go fishing. All right.
That's it. That's all you got to do.
Like take your own life into your hands, unless you like working in a cubicle. I
Sure.
don't know. Some people,
One
I'm
in
sure
100, I'm sure. Really,
Yeah.
they're safe.
there's
It's-
got to be somebody who does.
I think it's like Stockholm syndrome too. At some
Yeah,
point, it's
right.
like I've been doing it for 15 years. I don't even know. Like I don't know the world outside.
Right. Yeah, I never even thought about that.
Right,
Like
you just
people
love
who
your
just,
prison, man.
yeah, they grow up with that and they've never
Yep.
been out in nature. They're just maybe nature is scary to them.
Oh, for sure.
I never even thought about that. It's like so far removed from who I am.
Right.
You know?
It's like people are. I had one of my buddies was dating a girl, and she was. I think she said this, but it was something along the lines of like, "Yeah, I don't like trees," or something about trees. Kind of irked her. It kind of made her nervous.
It's like a mind blowing
I
statement
was like,
to me.
I wanted to poke her. Like, are you
Yeah.
really a person? What the hell are you? It was. But yeah, people. They live amongst us. There's people
Yeah.
that do not give a shit about nature. It's a burden. They hate the bugs.
Right.
I can't go to the beach. I hate the sand. I hate the water. It's salty. It's too cold. It's too hot. It's like, well, I guess you should be in the office then, because you're not cut out for
I
humanity.
guess so, huh? I wonder what makes that happen. I mean, because it's not something that's in us naturally.
No,
I don't think.
No.
I mean, just kind of there's got to be something that happens. Maybe it's upbringing or childhood. I don't know what it is, because I mean I like to think that we're all innately attuned to want to experience more nature, because that's what we come from. I mean, this
Right.
entire experiment of living in cities is relatively new
Oh,
in comparison to human history.
completely.
So I mean, there. I don't know. I don't know what makes that happen. Maybe that's evolution. Maybe we're evolving into got to sit in a box and look at a screen.
Yeah, towards the computer age and the sentient, the singularity that approaches. The
That's
robot
terrifying,
and man become one,
right?
and then they water the plants.
Yeah,
Yeah, I don't know,
right.
dude. But yeah, it seems to come from, like you said, on the geological scale. I mean, it's been like a fraction of a second, and even
Yeah.
within that fraction of humanity, you have the Industrial Revolution wasn't that long ago.
Right.
So like the whole combustion and fossil fuel and this whole way of looking at work and being in the cities is so new, but it seems like people have been sort of brainwashed in a sense, or just lost touch with that primal
Right.
instinct that's in all of us, that we just through whatever means, it seems that we've been sort of just dulled to all that,
I think
you
so.
know.
I think so. Because, I mean, a friend of mine once told me, and it's kind of along the same lines, it can be applied. Uh, he told me every child is born as an artist, but then at some point they're told, art is dumb, or you need to grow up or
Hmm.
whatever, and it stifles that artist inside of them, and then they do whatever they're expected to do instead of what they want to do. And this kind of circles around over everything that we've talked about so far. Uh, and I think he's dead on accurate about that. And you can replace the word artist with whatever,
Hmm.
free or natural, whatever speaks to you. But at some point, the world kind of stops you from being able to be who you want to be,
Hmm.
and it's kind of sad. And I think that with modern technology, I mean, shit, just look at how much it's grown and jumped in our lifetime.
Unbelievable.
Imagine what's going to happen in our children's lifetime and our grandchildren's. If it keeps going at the same pace, beyond our wildest imaginations.
Right. Oh, completely.
And I mean, I think that with that, you're going to find more mental health issues, because I think that a lot of them come from just the artificialness that we cram into our lives. I mean,
Hmm.
if you have a baby that's born today, that baby it's a primitive creature. It is a primitive creature. There's no getting around it. That baby doesn't know the internet. It doesn't know how to use a phone. What it does know is I'm happy or I'm not happy. I'm in pain or I'm not in pain. I'm hungry or I'm not hungry. That's a primitive creature,
Hmm.
and our brains are still wired to have that primitive setup of hunting and gathering and basic societal constructs. And then we take that primitive brain and we start shoving it in front of televisions, computers, and cars and airplanes and all of this.
Hmm.
Is it even a wonder why we have things like ADD
Oh
and
my God.
ADHD? I mean,
Right.
come on, man. Is there any reason? Is it surprising that we have mass amounts of depression in our world?
Right.
It's because of that. It's because we have a primitive creature that we're taking out of its element and forcing it to understand a world that we've created for it that is fundamentally different than what it's wired to deal with.
Oh, completely. You have a basic hardware. What you're talking about. It's just we're wired to from evolution to be a certain way, and then again like we're saying up until very recently, there's this complete onslaught in every direction of the lights and all the bells and whistles that completely just spin us out of
Right.
control. And you have this, we're I feel like at heart we're pretty simple creatures, and you take these supercomputers that are computing these algorithms that are beyond any human imagination and giving it to a 5-year-old. I mean, good luck trying to compete with that in
Right.
terms of attention and finding what's more natural to you. So it's a real problem. I mean, I'm sure. I know that movie, the Social Dilemma, I think it's called.
Okay.
They kind of go into that, like, what's the deal here, guys? Like at Google, like there's an ethical thing happening,
Yeah.
and it's just that old battle of the bottom line and money versus what's best for the greater good. But
Right.
unfortunately, I'm not sure if big tech and a lot of these big corporations are as interested in the greater good as they led us to believe.
Right. Right. I have my doubts with that too,
Hmm.
but it's something I say it all the time. There's far more wealth in the world that is not monetary value. There's far
That's so
more.
true. Yeah,
So
yeah.
much. I mean, just what we're doing right now, having a conversation, that's that's more powerful and more valuable to me than any dollar amount.
Oh, for
And it
sure.
always will be. Because I mean, we're blessed with this magic thing, the most powerful tool and the most destructive weapon that the world has ever known, and we carry it with us every single day, and it's our human mind.
Hmm.
I mean, it's a beautiful thing. It's created, you know, electricity and spaceships and the internet and yoga pants and fucking nuclear weapons. It's a
Right.
truly beautiful thing.
Aluminum foil.
Yeah, you know, but the most powerful thing it's capable of is communication with grammar and syntax. It's what truly sets us apart from other creatures is our ability to communicate intelligently amongst ourselves.
Mm,
And I mean, so many people let that slip to the wayside and don't appreciate the value that they have in very simply being able to open their mouth and speak and to open their ears and hear what's being spoken to them. So, yeah, I think that what we're doing right now is far more valuable than any amount of money you can put in my bank account. And I will always think that.
yeah, you have to tip your hat to that because I mean language is the greatest technology we have
It
as a
is.
species, and it's you know, it makes you wonder where no, I mean where, why, how, what, all that stuff comes into play. But uh, just thinking about, you know, coming from, again, not that long ago in terms of a geological sense of time, but um, you know, a few thousand years going from bipedal apes to where we're at now. I mean, I
Yeah.
always I'm a big fan of Terence McKenna, and
Brilliant man.
oh, brilliant, brilliant. But his stoned ape theory, I always thought had some credit. You know,
I,
there's something to that.
yeah.
Just in a non-scientific way, because
Yeah.
it's not a science, you
Right,
know,
right.
background, but there's something that feels right about how the psilocybin sort of helped us, you know, open up the brain center and the you know, the empathy and just becoming better, you know, more efficient hunting gathering tribe, and
Right.
that sort of led the way towards, you know, the what we see and hear now today.
And I think you're definitely right about that. I mean, yeah, I mean, we can go out and get some psilocybin right now and experience exactly what you're saying.
Mm,
You know, and there's plenty of research out there that supports, you know, using it to treat, you know, post-traumatic stress and anxiety and depression and fear and just all sorts of things. And you have to imagine that for, you know, the primitive, you know, creatures that came before us, when they stumbled upon those and they started, you know, having those experiences, of course it's going to shape them,
oh
right?
yeah,
Of course it's
of
going to. It's
course,
going to
of course.
rewire certain neurons in their
Mm-hmm.
mind and it's going to help change things, you
Yeah, new
know?
perspectives,
Yeah.
huge. Yeah, I think it's especially now when we talk about how people have kind of fallen into this. Um, you know, people call it sleep or this sort of non-natural state we kind of find ourselves in, depressed, anxious, you know, not sure of what to do, unfulfilled, even though we have, you know, we're just complete embarrassment of riches. I mean, this country is
Right.
so wealthy and we have everything, you know, everything you could possibly want or imagine, and it's still
Yeah.
not enough. So I feel like again the psychedelics um, are also a key to maybe unlock or to sort of just again the reset that we talked about before,
Right.
just sort of, you know, resetting your mind and your perception of reality and getting you to a more natural, healthy state versus this, you know, fight or flight nonsense of the mind world we live in. You know,
Right. What was your first experience with that kind of stuff?
first experience.
Was it something that helped kind of open your eyes, or was it more of a scary experience for you?
I was always interested. And I mean, you know, growing up, you hear of, you know, acid, and you hear these
Right.
things, these stories. Like Reefer Madness, though, was always like, oh man, if you take acid, you're gonna beat your grandma up, and you're gonna
Right. You're gonna
fucking kill
jump
your
off a
dog.
building and
Yeah, you're
all
gonna
this.
turn into Satan or, you know, whatever they want to tell you to keep you in line. So that always made me more interested instead of less. I was kind of like, huh, this can't be that true.
Right.
And again, my dad was, you know, he grew up in the 70s in New York City, and he definitely dabbled. He was a hippie.
Okay.
So I had that point of reference where I was like, well, he's still around and he seems like a cool guy.
Right.
So maybe I could get into it and just kind of see what everyone's talking about here.
Yeah. Can't be the monster and
Can't be
demon
the
that they
monster.
they
And
tell me it is.
right. So I think it was like a traditional sort of story. I was at an Allman Brothers show with some
Okay.
friends, and these older, middle aged hippies just saw that we were just wide-eyed and interested, and they just gave us some tabs, and we took them and had a hell of a night. I remember it. Yeah, some moments of terror. Where you feel like you're losing touch with yourself, or the boundaries between where you think you start and end start to blur, and that can cause like the ego gets a little rattled, and that sense of fear will come on, which is also retrospectively it's kind of healthy because I feel like every trip you're put in a state of terror, but you always come out stronger because you're like, well, that didn't kill me, so maybe the fear is just a mechanism for protection. It's not necessarily something that's like as real as you think it is. But yeah, moments of terror and moments of just sheer joy and ecstasy, just crying with laughter over absolutely nothing. So that I was like, you know what, this isn't as bad as what I've been told, and let's see where this road takes me. So it kind of opened up the door to, and again, they're so powerful, and a lot of people use them as for partying and whatnot, which I did too, and that's completely fair, and that has its place. But if you really want to do work and try to heal some pain, or just explore, or just being a human that's alive, that has this mind, that feels this reality, like you want to perturb that, you want to shake up the snow globe a little bit and see what's going on. I think if you do it with respect, and you do your research, and you're not an asshole. You do what you got to do. Make sure it's the safest place you can make. And then I think I feel like it's something everyone should do. I know people who have had bad reactions to it. If they have schizophrenic tendencies or maybe bipolar background, then again that's something maybe you need to consider and start a much lower dose. But if you feel like you're mentally sound enough to, go throughout your day, which is a trip in and of itself, just the craziness of the world, then I'm totally a big advocate, I guess I would say, and using psychedelics respectfully and properly, appropriately. There's so many doors to unlock. Yeah, that's good, man.
I do. But what I've noticed though is I've noticed that some people like acid, and some people like mushrooms, and it seems to me that the people who prefer LSD are the kind of people we were talking about before that I don't understand. People who like cities, people who like loud noises and concerts and crowds and that kind of stuff. I find that those people really prefer LSD as their recommended psychedelic experience, and I find that people more like me who would rather be out in the mountains and connected to nature find a much stronger experience with psilocybin. And maybe that's just my personal opinion based off of myself and the handful of experiences that I've had and seen with other people. But that's my thought. My thought is that if you are more of a city person, you like more of the manufactured type of psychedelics, and if you're more of an outdoors person, you will do better with psilocybin. It's just my theory.
No, I think that's fair, and I definitely agree with you for sure. And again, people fellow trippers and whatnot who are in the community, so to speak, they seem to be, that's sort of the consensus. It's like the digitized, digital, more synthetic LSD. People again who are more interested in that feel more comfortable with that, and also I've heard too, like the sometimes the hallucinations, or whatever you want to call them, that happen in the trip sometimes are more digital and synthetic in an LSD space versus the more natural Gaian type of feel you get from mushrooms. I personally prefer the mushrooms, but I think you can extract data from both, and both can be in certain settings can be helpful or harmful, depending what you're doing with yourself. But I'd agree. I think there's something more synthetic and digital about the LSD, and if that's your cup of tea, then go for it. But, not for everybody.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even want to, take a bunch of acid and go to a concert. That sounds terrifying
That's
to
living
me.
hell.
It sounds like it to me, But give me a handful of mushrooms and say, hey man, go hang out next to that campfire for the night. Like, yeah, hell
Sign me
yeah,
up.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, much
You know?
safer. There's
Yeah,
I think about Terrence and all his little wisdoms
yeah,
he's given to us. But yeah, just basically like if you're alone in a room and there's one other person, then there's culture is the third person in the room. You feel like well, now I have to talk to you, and
right,
when's the last time I said something? Am I talking too much? Am I not talking enough? All
right.
that like mental stuff with being with other people comes into play on the higher doses. So it's almost like
Yeah,
if you're gonna do a high dose, be alone,
yeah,
or have a sitter that is experienced and it's not gonna come and fuck with you.
right. Yeah, yeah. You don't want that.
No, you can't have that.
Yeah. See, I've always felt like nature was my sitter.
Yeah,
That just this and for whatever reason, it helps and it comforts me. Like because I can go out and sit and just take my dog out into the mountains but I'm experienced in the mountains though. That's the other thing.
right. You're comfortable.
Yeah, that is home to me.
Right.
That's where I feel comfortable because, like I said, I don't feel comfortable in town.
Mm-hmm.
And so if I did the same thing in town, I'd probably have a terrible experience.
Sure.
But out in the woods, I grew up in these mountains. I've run them, I've hiked them, I've climbed them.
Yeah, it's your backyard.
Yeah, yeah. So there's an immense amount of comfort there, and I think that's what really helps is you have to be in a comfortable zone
Mm-hmm.
because it's all about the mind.
Right.
You can't have that positive experience if you have a negative space in your mind. And that's important to
Oh,
remember.
completely. And life too. Not even just going into a trip. I mean, if
Oh
you're
yeah,
approaching life, if you're holding negative, you know, tendencies or outlooks, and you don't have the right intentions, or you have no intention, then you can watch things spiral, and
right.
it's so true. But if you're in a good space, if you feel good about yourself for whatever
Yeah,
reason, the external world seems to reflect that in a way. I mean, people
yeah,
are better to you if you're already in a good space, and then the opposite's true. If I'm in a shit mood, then the world just looks ugly and it
right.
turns on you.
Yeah,
So it's
everything's
all
gray and
hmm
yeah,
so it's just a good advice for just life, but especially tripping because that's completely everything's exacerbated on the trip.
right. Yeah, like you said, it takes your ego and it brings it front and center.
Oh yeah,
It really
yeah.
does.
It'll test you real quick,
Yeah,
and you'll
yeah.
get
You'll know who you are.
yeah.
So
It's the only. I mean, it's funny, but I mean, my family is. I have a lot of psychiatrists in my family.
okay.
And again, it's a powerful profession. It works for a lot of people.
Yes.
But some people go 20 years through, of therapy, and
Yeah.
they're kind of more or less where they were. But I mean, if you give somebody, a serious dose of mushrooms,
Yeah.
like a heroic dose, maybe 5 or 6 dried grams.
Yeah.
I mean, you're talking about 30 years of therapy in 12 hours.
Yeah.
You come out a different person the next day.
Right.
I mean, that's powerful.
It's very powerful. Very, very powerful. I mean, shit. You getting me thinking I need to take another trip to the mountains here soon.
Yeah, me too.
need,
Jesus, hear
need to go
myself talk.
speak to myself. It's that important, man. It's because I mean, like, I struggle with mental health. I do. I won't lie about it, man. It's there, and it's hard. It's real hard. You have those down days, and you don't feel like you will ever get out of that pit,
hmm
and it swallows you up. And then you have to go to a job that maybe you don't care about, or maybe you don't have friends or family you can talk to, and the world will eat you alive,
Completely.
and you'll feel like you'll never come out, and that's an issue. And I know I'm not alone in that. And so I think that's why I can't leave Colorado.
Yeah.
I think that's why I cannot leave is because I know that I have the greatest amount of therapy in the world right outside my door.
And it's free.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
right there. It's anytime you want it. No
Yeah.
appointments.
Yeah.
It's there,
And
but
that's not knocking on, legit, human therapists and
not at all.
psychologists and all. I
Yeah,
see them too. I do.
sure, they
You
have their
know.
role, they have their
Yeah.
place for sure.
Yeah. I'm a veteran, so I mean, I get them. They're just a phone call away.
Hmm.
And that's a great resource. But they don't do what nature does.
Right.
They never have,
Hmm.
and they're never going to.
More complete
Not for
picture.
me. Yeah.
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 No, but yes, I think it's something now that's getting a little more, out in the open. But it seems
Right.
like everyone's fucked up.
Everybody.
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 All socioeconomic backgrounds, all classes, all races, all
Yeah.
religions. Everyone's got that story or that, you know, we're just fucked up. And I think people are starting to become more comfortable opening up nowadays. Like, hey, listen, this is what happened to me. I'm working through it. And that's such a great place to start from.
It is.
Versus we play these games, where everyone puts the mask on that I'm happy and everything's fucking fantastic. And let's just drop the mask and just be real with each other. I think we get a lot further.
I think you're right about that, and like I was saying earlier, I think it comes down to we are primitive creatures in a non-primitive world. Our brains cannot handle the rapid pace of development,
Right.
and I think that's what's causing most of it.
It sounds right to me.
But I think at the same time, our brains are also powerful enough to reach out and say, okay, there's something wrong here. I'm in pain, and I need some help.
Right.
And that's important for everybody too. I mean, if you feel alone, you're not, and if you need help, fucking reach out.
Yeah, reach out, man.
Like to anybody
Right.
at all. I mean, some people aren't going to be able to help you because they can't, they just don't know how, and
Right.
that's fine. That's
They got
totally
their
fine.
own shit or
Yeah,
whatever. They
exactly.
can't process it. Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, there's no shame in understanding that you're in a negative place and wanting to change that and become more positive. There's no shame in that at all.
No, the opposite, man. It's so powerful. I think this masculine machismo type of attitude
Right.
that you think that vulnerability is a weakness and not being hyper masculine is a weakness, but I think it's quite the opposite. It's vulnerability gives tremendous strength because
Right.
you're sort of like, well, you can't hurt me. I'm already hurt. Like, what's
Yeah.
up? Like, let's do this. And yeah, again, another facet of the culture, sort of pushing people in a certain direction about how to think about things, and too, like, different past generations. Where I think each generation has dealt with their shit differently. You have my grandparents dealt with their shit differently,
Right.
and just a much more savage environment, like the Great Depression.
Yeah.
Crazy, and then our parents and the coming up in the 60s and 70s, and then us. We just all have our different methods, but it is wild to think that I grew up with VHS and Blockbuster and Hollywood
Right.
Video
All that.
and all that stuff. And like Friday night, you go down to the Blockbuster and you'd spend an hour. And like if you were really good that week, you'd maybe get 2 movies.
Yeah. Right.
And it was like the best, the fucking best.
Yeah.
And now, again, the embarrassment of riches. It's like I spent an hour on Netflix going through these because everything's amazing and colorful, and it's
Right.
you spend the hour looking for in the 500 movies you go through, and none of them are hitting the spots.
Right.
You go to HBO Max,
Right.
You're there for half an hour. But
Right.
it's such a time suck. It's unbelievable.
It is, and it's all right there at your fingertips, and it's so
Yep.
easily accessible. Like, why would you do anything else with your time?
Right.
And I had to recognize that in myself years ago that I was sucked into that. I mean, video games are mine.
Okay.
They will suck my life right out of me.
Oh, so many people.
Yeah,
it's-
I mean,
how can you compete?
yeah,
Again, it's just
exactly,
completely
exactly.
consuming.
I mean, shit, man. I got almost 200 hours on a game that came out 2 months ago. Because I'm dealing with some things in my head, and that's part
It
of what
helps.
it is, And for me, it's not necessarily the game, but like I play with my brother. I play with like somebody close to me,
Right.
and sometimes that's the only time I get to talk to that person is through that game, and so that's that bonding experience. And so in those situations, I think the technology is really, really good for us.
Oh yeah.
Technology is super powerful in the fact that it can connect you with somebody in a personal way from anywhere on the planet. that's awesome and that's beautiful.
Yeah, it's very powerful.
But when you sit here and you just, like you were saying, you scroll through, this program after that program of all these movies and shows, and you spend, an entire day watching a show about, whatever serial killers. That seems
Right.
to be the big one these days. Everybody
Yeah,
loves that for
people
some
love their
shit.
serial killers.
But yeah, you do that all day long, and you wonder why you're not happy in your life, and you wonder why you feel like you don't trust other people.
Right.
Like, look what you're pumping into your brain at all times,
Yeah.
and you're sitting on the couch, you're not activating your body, you're not going outside and feeling the air and the sun. Like, you're causing harm to yourself by doing that. And there's nothing wrong with sitting down and watching a movie
Oh
or
no,
watching a show.
I love a good
yeah.
flick. Of
Oh
course.
yeah. But if it's going to consume every moment of your day for days and days and weeks on end, it absolutely has a negative effect. Just as music is powerful, whatever media you put into your mind, it's powerful.
Oh yeah, you got to be careful what you feed yourself. I mean,
Absolutely.
in terms of right down to food and calories,
Yep.
you are what you eat kind of thing, and whatever you're feeding your mind is gonna start to reflect that.
Absolutely.
The whole, if you're just bringing in garbage, what do you expect?
Yeah.
You're gonna be depressed if
Yeah.
you're just feeding yourself nonsense all day. But yeah, again, it's moderation, but it requires discipline, and it's something else. I feel like this generation might be lacking a bit for whatever
Discipline.
reason. Yeah, we kind of, not for everybody. I mean, there's plenty
Right.
of super disciplined people, but
Yeah.
from like an aggregate perspective, it seems like we've kind of fell off a little,
Yeah.
and that lack of discipline is again causing. Because you're right. I mean, the FaceTime is an amazing superpower we have
Yeah.
with these phones. I mean, I can talk and see somebody that I love across the country in real time, and that's beautiful. But then, in the same device, the same technology can make somebody feel like shit, or compare yourself to people on Instagram or whatever. And it's
Right.
so you got to be careful. And it seems like young people who don't know any better, it's a slippery slope. It can be real tragic.
It's really scary. I
Yeah.
hear about it all the time, like kids killing themselves over things that they see on
Instagram.
social media.
Yeah.
Like, man, what happened to just being a bully?
Right, just the plain bully affecting five
like when I
people.
was a kid, you couldn't do that. Like it was. I'm gonna give you a wedgie. Well, I'm gonna throw sand in your eyes. All right, cool. Now fight's over.
That's it. Yeah,
that was
that
was
was
being
it.
a bully. It didn't go home and it wasn't there everywhere you go.
Right.
And that's what is happening now. You can't avoid it. You can't escape it. It's just it's there everywhere, and somebody can start a rumor and spread it like a wildfire in
Oh,
a
yeah.
matter of seconds. It's
Totally viral.
Yeah, I feel bad for kids these days. I mean, my daughter's, she's 12 years old. You think that's not on my mind? It is.
Oh yeah, that's the
Right.
age too, where
Yeah.
it's the most, that's difficult age for just to be a lot. Being a preteen is
Yeah.
super, awkward and
Yeah, it was
weird.
difficult
and,
before the internet.
yeah, and you add that extra element of just the garbage that's there. It's
Yeah.
how do you mitigate that at all without basically telling her like, honey, you can't use your phone? Like, do you just?
Well, she
sort
doesn't
of,
have a phone.
Okay, well that's a start.
Yeah, and she says that she doesn't want one.
Good for her.
Whether
That's
that's
refreshing.
whether that's true or not is anybody's guess. Kids are kids. But,
Sure.
But she says she doesn't want one, and she wants to learn more about nature stuff. And so that's for me, I guess I got lucky. But
Right.
I mean, how do you mitigate that though? Because there's no way you can stop them from being exposed to the negativity that the world is putting out there.
Sure.
There's no way. It's everywhere. It's
yeah, all
everywhere.
angles, all
It's
the
on
time.
it's on the radio, it's on the TV, it's on your phone. It's you can't go anywhere without being bombarded with negativity anymore. Pain and suffering is like that's the order of the day,
Right.
Every
Business
day.
as usual.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how do you avoid it? I don't know, man. You tell me, because I don't have the answers.
Yeah, I feel like every parent has that, that voice where you want to protect and sort of shield your children and like maintain that innocence as long
Right.
as possible, but you don't want to make them like inept in life
Absolutely.
and like shelter, because we know those kids who had
Right.
helicopter parents and they can't tie their shoes. You
Right.
know? But it's a weird balance of exposure to like the ugly side of things and the beautiful side of things, but
Yeah.
just exposure, I think, again, in moderation, and you just try to do your best and giving them the tools they're going to need. Because I mean, it's when I think about my own life, I'm sure I'll live longer without my parents and with them. So
Hmm.
it's like this thing you have. If you're a parent, you have X amount of time to give your kids the tools, how to see life in a healthy way and how to be a strong person. And I guess it's all you can try, really.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, I think challenges are important for children. I think it's important to challenge them.
Oh yeah.
For example, my daughter wanted to go to Europe, and since then has changed her mind. Now she wants to go to Japan, but through these like school trips and whatnot. And when she came to me and said that she wants to go to Europe, I mean, yeah, of course I support that by all means. It terrifies me as a father of a teenage girl. Yeah, it scares the shit out of
Reasonable
me.
fear.
You
Yeah.
know, I've been to Europe. I've been lots of places, and we were talking, before the podcast. Not all of them have been friendly to me.
Mm-hmm.
So I know what the world is like out there, and so it's scary. But I told her yes, but it comes with a cost,
Mm.
and that cost was twofold. First, she had to present to me a verbal report. She said, "I want to go to Europe." I said, "What countries?" And she said, "Austria, Germany, and I think Switzerland was the other one that they were going to go to over a 10-day course."
Mm-hmm.
I said, "Okay, I support that, and I want you to go. But in order to go, next time I see you, you need to tell me what is the importance of those three countries over the last 100 years." Figured that was a pretty easy thing. She
Yeah.
come back to me and she told me, she's like, those three countries were all involved in two major wars in the last 100 years. I said,
Right.
good job. What happened? And she kind of like had like a base level, understanding of the first two world wars. And so
Mm-hmm.
we sat there and talked about that. And I said, now when you go to these places, remember that that's in their history.
Right.
Remember that that's what you're standing on. That's what
Mm.
you're seeing, and imagine how it impacts the people who live there. Because if you're going to explore other cultures, you have to understand where those cultures come from. Just
Of
like
course.
you were talking about with Rome.
Right.
That's thousands and thousands of years. Those
Mhm.
those roads you were walking on, those were laid by Caesars. Like
Right.
those are
Right.
old roads.
Yeah. It's still in better shape than ours.
Yeah, right. Yeah, they
Yeah.
knew something we didn't. But I mean, and you gotta be able to understand that kind of stuff. Like I was on a date tree farm on the Euphrates River that
Sounds magical.
that goes back to biblical times.
Oh yeah.
It's the I don't remember all the stories perfectly. It's been a while since I studied religion and all that, but it was part of Moses' story of
Wow.
stopping and resting at this date farm and they claim that that's that date farm.
The farm.
Yeah, and
There you
I've
go.
stood there with groups of chaplains while we were deployed to Iraq.
Yeah.
It was an interesting experience,
I'm
and
sure.
getting to see the family that's running it, and that family has been taking care of that date farm for thousands of generations.
Impressive.
There's some cool history in this
Oh,
world
yeah.
if you're willing to look at it.
Right. You gotta be willing to take some chances, some risk. But like you
Yeah.
were doing with your daughter, that's what a great way to like give her a holistic, you know, not just to go and be a stereotypical type of American, sort of obnoxious, but to know your place and to know have a respect for where you're at, and
Yeah.
that speaks volumes.
Yeah.
But yeah, dude, I mean, you're a combat veteran. My grandfather was in the Navy. He was like a poor Irish kid in New York. Went to became an accountant on the GI Bill. Changed his whole life around. Had my dad, and just the Navy saved his life. And I, personally not in the military, but have so much respect for the men and women who make that choice And whether it's whether you're in whatever side of the aisle you are politically, none of that matters. When it comes to the guys and gals who are over there doing what needs to be done. And I think our country's kind of lost respect and touch with how we treat our vets. I think it's really sad. I know there's the VA and there's some things, but I mean I would go as far as saying that vets shouldn't have to pay taxes. Public transportation should be free, because without you guys, none of this bullshit would work. I mean, we wouldn't be talking like this if under different circumstances, and people living their lives clueless what their iPhones. You don't really understand what sacrifices are being made for you, and I just think that's something I'd love to get more into, is figuring out more ways to support the troops who come back.
Right.
And because we can't imagine, this, not you, but this like civilians, we can't imagine what it's like to experience such tremendous energy and just the things that go on over there, and to come back and just to be expected to be like, all right, Bob, go stock the shelf.
Yeah.
Or, let's go to a movie and sit quietly in a dark room. I mean, it's easier said than done. So I don't know. It's just something I hope people, when they go throughout their day, just think about, what you're doing, and just be grateful for, the men and women out there doing that. So I really appreciate,
Be grateful for each other too.
Yeah.
You never know who you're talking to, and what's in their minds, what kind of day they're having, what kind of life that they're having. Your struggle's not theirs, and theirs isn't yours. Mm-hmm. Neither one of them is bigger or smaller than the other.
Right. It's all relative.
Yeah. I think that's a good place to stop.
I think so, man. I had to get it out there.
That was deep.
Went real deep. I had to, man. It's just fucking. It's nuts. We just, you gotta tip your cap.
Right.
To the men and women doing that.
Well, before we go, anything you want to say? You want to put it out there?
Anything I want to say to the world?
This coffee the Academy,
is
hi Mom.
Delicious, dude. This Lion's Mane coffee.
Yeah, it
I'll
is
be getting
pretty
some
good,
of that.
isn't it?
But I don't know, if you do some more research on psychedelics, you just read an article, even if you're not just get into it. Just read something. You don't have to take anything, but open your mind, open your eyes to it. There's a lot more going on than we perceive, and I'll leave everyone with that.
Right on. Open your mind, read a book, do something nice for somebody, smile at somebody.
Do something.
Live your best adventure. All right. Well, thanks, man.
Yeah, all right, brother.
That does it for this week's Best Adventure podcast. Hope you guys all enjoyed it. And if you'd like to support the podcast, by all means, you can. You can go to senseisbest.com. That is SENSEISBEST.com. And pick up some swag or some all-natural wood butter. It's great for your wood-handled axes and knives. Or, just drop us a like or a comment. Shoot us an email. Whatever you want. Anyway, do something awesome today. Tell somebody you love them. Mean it. And we'll see you next week.